This is Dani Torrent. I invited him for the Pride from Barcelona. Yeah, Dani, tell me a little bit more about your work. What is it exhibited here?
Well, this is a series of illustration and paintings about intimacy, male intimacy, because during the lockdown, I am still a children's illustrator. But in that period, I didn't have to do anything specific. I didn't have any commission to finish, any book to complete. So for the first time in a long time, I started to work for pleasure without any direction. And at that moment, I was stuck at home alone, and what I wanted to portray was intimacy. That was a work I did for myself. I didn't have any intention to show. But at that moment, I had to make an exhibition near Barcelona in a museum. Mm-hmm. And the director saw these drawings, and he suggested me to make an exhibition with this in his museum. So I accepted, and that was a kind of make it official to say this is a body of work that worth showing.
Because I know your work from New York when we were working together in 2017, which was totally different.
Yes.
And then 2 years ago, during lockdown, I saw this, images showing up on my timeline, and I was like, "Oh, Dani, I think you are doing your coming out, right?"
Well, in fact, I'm coming out every time. My first exhibition was about kisses that was not clear, but you could read that they were gay kisses. Then in my children's illustration, in my books, there are always like queer characters. They are never the theme of the book because I don't want to make an issue of this. Mm-hmm. But sometimes the main character of a children's book lives in a house with his partner, who's a man. And, well, now is maybe the body of work that's more focused in the gender homosexual thing. But it's something that's been appearing in all my work. I usually start where the two heads collide. So in the keys, and I start working like this, and the farther I go, the more abstract it becomes. Okay.
Illustration is really your core.
Yes, well, I wouldn't tell this is illustration. I think this is painting on paper, okay, because it doesn't illustrate anything. It's closed to itself. And for illustration, it's interesting that my process is opposite the one that I use for illustration, which is constructing images that explain a story. Mm-hmm. So I begin with composition, and it's very hard to do this. And instead, this is another process. I have an idea, and I have a reference, and then what I do is deconstruct it. This is more playful, and the other is more rational, and you have to tell something, and it has to be readable and understandable by anyone, and this is for me, and then if people like, even better. And I think in gay art there is an overrepresentation of sexuality. Maybe because on homosexuality, there's sexuality there.
The word.
Yeah. And maybe there's a lack of complicity, tenderness, care, and this is maybe the humanity on gay relationships, what I try to convey in this kind of work.
Now I am really curious this painting because it's the one I choose as the flyer for the exhibition. It's also sold, so that's great. It goes to a nice home. But I'm curious what your idea was about it.
As most of my illustration is a composition that goes to the heads, which are very small, and I like the thing that the part where everything is condensed is small, and all the rest is like an emanation of that. and it's quite classical. The composition of this one is like a triangle. So, but what is interesting for me of this and a lot of this series of works is color. When we think of color, we usually think of hue. We think of reds and greens and blues. We don't talk about luminosity or saturation. And I'm trying to make to play with continuity and contrast. So we can see that there is this gray that's almost like this blue, so it blends a bit together. This yellow contrasts in color, but not in luminosity. But then there are these stripes that create this rhythm and this vibration. And this is the kind of play
you do.
I do with color, yes. This is one of my favorites. Part of the joy of painting is to get surprised by your own work. And as this, as you say, is a bit different from the rest, is something that surprises and
almost abstract a little bit. And then when you go closer, oh yeah, these are two persons. It's called Still There with a question mark.
Yes.
And for me it was so funny, I just had to have this. So I put a sticker on it before the exhibition so nobody could buy it. But yeah, it's really beautiful, and I'm gonna find a nice place in my home.
I'm glad you kept it.
The other one we just saw was more romantic.
Yes.
Kind of as a theme, right?
To try to create two moods different in each side of the wall. And this is more explicit, more sexual. What's important is always the relationship between the people, how they hold their hands, their head.
Tenderness.
Yes. This is people that care, that know each other. What I try to put on site is those moments of intimacy where nobody is able to see except the couple. Because now with Instagram and Facebook and everybody is exposing their privacy in a very pornographic way. Not pornographic in the sexual thing, but very explicit and very posed and very faked. And I try to find some kind of truth and some kind of tenderness and some kind of, this.
Well, I think you succeeded very well in capturing that kind of feelings and emotions. So thank you for coming here to Amsterdam.
Oh, thank you.
And well, we have a future together, we know that. And I'm also very happy that Amsterdam understood what this was all about. And people really bought your work. So I think that's a nice feeling that a part of you will be left in Amsterdam now. And
I'm super happy to be here and
so
how everything went. And
yeah, so probably you will be back at some point again.
I hope so.
All right. Well, thank you very much.